I'm Adam Vile. I'm responsible for high-performance computing at a consultants company called Excellion. I've been working in investment banks a long time, but they haven't been doing very well recently. And there's been a bit of trouble, in fact. But now they're back on track. And actually, we've found that there's been a lot more thought now about how they can use technologies like cloud to capitalize on those to give them cost savings. There are new risk management procedures coming out because of the kind of problems they caused in the first place. And they need a lot more compute for that. In fact, in order to do that, this IRC, this new risk management approach, they need, I think it's 10 times more compute. I did a study recently for a bank who were giving us up to 10 times more. That's nice for us because we're all purveyors and sellers of compute. In fact, the problem is we don't know where to look for it. And we'll be looking in our data centers. And in fact, what we found is that our data centers are getting quite full up. It's a big problem. And so lots of banks are thinking, well, how about using cloud? They're running out of space all over the place. Data centers are in London. They're using too much energy. One investment bank, I don't know if you know, I'm not saying which one, uses more data in one day than the city centre of Manchester in its data centers. And there are a lot of best-in banks. It's a very costly way of running compute. Very costly indeed. And so cloud is a good option because our utilization around the compute is only less than 20%. And in fact, if we can drive up the utilization, we can use our own compute more. And in fact, what people have been looking at grid. Grid computing in the old days was a good way of driving up the utilization for batch run times. But then we only actually use our investment banks, we use our compute between the hours of midnight and 6 in the morning, which means we only have 50% utilization. There you go, I had to get it in. So what about sharing resources? But as you know, there is a bit of a problem with sharing resources because cloud, or being the good case, we're really using HPC applications in investment banking. And HPC doesn't necessarily sit well on the cloud. Can we do high-performance computing on the cloud? Really, though, performance isn't the issue. The issue is banks don't like to share. They especially don't like to share with each other. And they're obsessive about security and really strong SLAs. So they have a requirement to finish by 8 o'clock in the morning for their risk management numbers. So safety first for investment banks. This is where we are. But we can overcome this because grid runs independent encapsulated tasks. We can take pieces of data and pieces of calculation, put it out in a virtual container and run only that piece. Therefore, we're in a good position for pay-as-you-go. Fantastic opportunities for scale and cost savings for investment banking. However, there is nervousness around the cloud for compute, very much nervousness. And the reason there's nervousness is because, for example, for storage, there are questions about where you can store data. In Singapore, you cannot move data out of your own data center. There are regulatory issues, the FSA, although that won't exist for very much longer. But there are possibilities. And what we find is not compute, but things like the web, development, print servers, fax servers, are things we're finding on the cloud. For example, banks want to benefit from shared compute. They want pay on demand. They want to deliver according to SLAs. And they want predictable SLAs. Can they have private clouds? There's a lot of technology around now which can support that. But the problem is if they have that, they can't benefit from pay-as-you-go, and they can't benefit from shared ice cream. What are the alternatives? I have to tell you, by the way, all generalizations are wrong. And there's nothing new under the sun. So not SAS, not PaaS, not IaaS. What about GaaS, grid as a service? High-performance compute, on demand. It's a bit like timeshare, in a good way. And some of you have been caught by timeshare in the past, I'm sure, but not this time, because you can share a reserved, allocated, dedicated piece, perhaps, which is with some on-demand flexibility with another user, a one-stop shop, perhaps, which gives you middleware, pay-per-use, pay-as-you-go, and infrastructure. Have your cake and eat it. You get reserved pay-for-use infrastructure. You get a grid-managed service. You exploit all the cloud technologies that we've been talking about here today. Use all the infrastructure in its concepts. It's cloud for the corporate. Grid as a service. I'm cloud and I'm proud. It's about winning hearts and minds in the finance industry. Thank you.